typical winter for you using, Josh?
Well, yeah, my typical winter, I've never actually, in the last 14 years or something, I haven't done a full winter anywhere. I've managed to skip the winters and come back to Australia every off season for the Australian summer. So, yeah, my downtime is trying to squeeze into 3 or 4 months in Australia what everyone else I know does in 12, you know. So I'm kind of like, you know, the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. It's like, I'm late. That's just like I'm just trying to squeeze as much stuff in the home, you know, the stuff I enjoy at home in a short period. So the long winter, as you call it, off season, from my perspective, goes in a flash because I'm trying to, you know, catch up with friends, you know, enjoy the summer, get some, you know, headspace away from motorbike racing. But I end up riding a bike of some kind, whether it be a push bike or a motorbike, every day. So, yeah, it's just every day is filled with some sort of activity or even work. I do some service work for friends on motorbikes from home in my workshop, or I go and work for another friend's construction company. I do a few days with them when they need a hand. So it's kind of like people see it strange that I work in my off season, but I find it keeps you grounded. You know, you keeps your feet on the ground, and you know how lucky you are to race bikes. You know, I would love to be as successful as the likes of the top MotoGP guys, you know, especially salary related. But when you do, you know, a day's regular work or a week's regular work, it reflects how lucky I am just to be able to race bikes in the way that I do.
So it's like you lead a bit of a dual life, really. You kind of come here, let's call it for the job, for the BSB season, and then go back home, like I say, try and live your Australian life, fit a load in. Sounds like you find relaxation from working in a way that, you know, it's away from the pressures of racing, but you're still, you know, you're still doing something. You know, say it keeps you grounded. You're not just kind of sitting around.
Yeah, as you say, exactly how I say it. I lead 2 lives. It's kind of like when I leave England, I kind of put that life on hold, and my Australian timer starts. And then when we're on our way to the airport to fly back for the start of the season, it's like the Australian life timer stops, and we go back into racing mode. But I'm certainly a really active person. Like, I feel super annoyed, irritated. I'm uncomfortable if I haven't been productive in the day. You know, if I set my alarm and then hit snooze and accidentally sleep in, I'm kind of angry the rest of the day because I lost those hours or whatever in the morning. It's just in nature of my character. I want to try and be super productive and get as much stuff done, even if it's like mundane stuff or things that people think's mundane, like mowing the grass or you know, or washing the car. I just want to always try and maximize the potential of each day and get as many jobs sort of ticked off as possible. And it can be quite exhausting at times. I often fall into bed and, you know, the second my eyes are closed, I'm asleep. But that's how I seem to enjoy the most. If I never come out with that comment like, oh, I'm bored, or you know, I wish today was over. You know, you hear other people make comments like that, and I think I'm counting every minute of every day to try and squeeze as much in. So it seems unjustified when you hear comments like that.
Yeah, no, I can understand. I said get the most from the day. I just sort of had a vision in my mind of you being super competitive at mowing the lawn, though, or have this list for the day and trying to smash through it like a race day. You're about to start your 12th season at BSB, 2-time champion. You've never finished outside of the top 5 in any full season you've competed, and with 54 wins to your name, you're the second most successful rider in terms of race wins. it's quite a BSB CV. You know, it's 25 years of BSB, and when you look at that, you know, you're nearly half those seasons and all those wins. I mean, what is it? You're the champ. What keeps you coming back and being so competitive?
It makes me quite proud when you reel it off like that. I think you know, already I've achieved far more than a lot of people would have said I could. You know, when I first started out in bikes, so that's a driving force. You know, to kind of prove. Even though it was years ago and I never had doubt in myself, it's always nice to have that opportunity to prove people wrong. You know, people that doubted what you were capable of and you know what you were willing to push for. And yeah, I mean, I find it hard to give a really clear answer to what keeps me coming back. You know, at 37, a lot of people have already retired. You know, if you compare to other people's careers, and I think for me, I still feel like a kid. You know, I don't think I ever really grew up. I don't feel really in myself any different to probably how I felt at about age 19. I think that's kind of as far as I grew up. And then after that, it just feels like the years have passed, but I haven't changed much as a person. And I think that is a reason why I stay motivated, I suppose, and I've still got the drive to keep going because I don't feel old. I think more recently I've started to notice physically it's a bit harder. You know, I've not really been someone to focus on training. I've kind of led, as I said, as a busy lifestyle, but I don't focus specifically on my physical workout program. Or so maybe as I get older, I'm going to have to, you know, tailor my lifestyle more to get the best out of an aging body. But at the moment, yeah, I still can do and run with all the young guys coming into the class, and I'm still as keen to win. I think everybody always wants to win. You know, I don't think you could ask a person in any sport, or even if they're not into sport, do you want to win? It's like, yeah, I want to win. I'd love to win. It's just whether, I suppose the difference is whether you're willing to do what it takes to get the win. You know, are you willing to sacrifice time with friends, or are you willing to sacrifice weekends, or are you willing, if it's, let's say it's beer that you love, are you willing to sacrifice drinking beer to keep your body in the best condition it can be, or keep your weight down so that you've got that advantage when it comes to racing? And at the moment, or up until now at least, I've been willing to make the sacrifices I feel like I need to make to stay competitive. And whilst I can still win races, I think I'm still going to continue to want to come back. I think if I get to a point where I've given what I consider myself to be 100%, not what someone else thinks I've given, but once I know myself, I've given 100%, and that's the best I can give, and it's not able to win, or not able to get podiums, or not able to be competitive anymore, that might be the day that I change my mindset on whether I want to continue to do it. But at the moment, and up until this point, it's always sort of been the same. I've always kind of looked forward to the start of the season, and I've kind of enjoyed the end of a season, if it, you know, the finish, and definitely after last season to receive the rewards of success. But at any point, you always then look forward to the start of the next season, as I currently am now, looking forward to getting going again.
So do you think it's that kind of, I always say that motorbikes keep you young because, you know, they are a bit silly, they are a bit daft, they're sort of toys for grown-ups in a way, and you're living this dual life. Do you think that's what, like you said, you feel like you're 19, you know, you come back in the off season back to home to Australia, then you go to work, and it's, you know, do you think that's what's, you know, you are energized that way? you don't get bored of the win feeling. You come back fresh. You, like you said, you just notice it maybe in your body a little bit, but the mentality means that you're still stuck. You know, you're one of the senior guys out there on the grid now, but from results, it doesn't show that way.
Yeah, I think a common saying is if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's how I feel with motorbikes. Certainly there's days that are difficult, and certainly there's preparation that becomes irritating, and, you know, travel and different things. There's little elements that kind of wear you down at times. But in the grand scheme of things, I love going to the racetrack. I love you know, working with the crew to get the bike set up. I like the technical side of the racing, of the bike and the racing. You know, every element of what I'm doing at the moment, I kind of enjoy, and that's why it doesn't feel like a job. It's never racing. I've purposely never tried to put racing in a job category. Unfortunately, the nature of life is you've got to draw an income from somewhere to pay the bills, of course. So it's been a job title, but in my head and the way I see my racing, I've always tried to avoid putting it in a job category.
Yeah.
And the fact that every element of the racing has been enjoyable for me. It's never become a chore. It's always been that hobby that's become a profession. And I think that also is a contribution.
So you're coming into your third season with PBM, obviously as reigning champion, third year on the bike. I mean, is the change coming into is there much of a change coming into this year or preparation? Have you asked the team for a load of changes to the bike? I mean, we've seen that V4R come in and dominate. Obviously, it doesn't ride itself. You guys, you know, you just missed out in 2019. You know, amazing season last year. So what you know, how are you changing coming into this season, or is it same prep as always?
It's very, I mean, in the lead up to the season, my prep's very much the same as before. You know, just trying to maintain fitness and you know, by riding motocross and cycling and mountain biking, and just keeping all your reflexes up to speed. That so, you know, when the day does come to get back on the bike, I don't feel like I'm a bit, you know, of course there's going to be a few days where I feel a bit rusty, but, you know, I'm doing as many things as I can to stay sharp. But, you know, from the team's perspective, I haven't requested big changes or anything like that. Certainly during the year, we have to, you know, seek out where our weaknesses are. And, you know, some things we come up with and areas we see at a certain track, it might not be possible to be the best bike and team and ride a package in that corner or at that track. But at least if we recognise that there's a weakness, it's something we can work on and minimise how much you know, damage that event can do, or how much damage that sector of the track can do to our performance. So we're always looking. I mean, that's my job, is to find the weakest link and complain about the thing that's stopping us from going quicker. So that never stops. That's always an endless target, is to keep improving. So yeah, there's little areas that we need to continue to try and, you know, improve. But I've not kind of gone into the off season with a list of demands that I think, you know, the team needs to improve. Otherwise, you know, we're really going to struggle in the next year. It's kind of more marginal gains. You know, when you're at the top, it's very difficult to make any big steps. The closer you get to the you know, the peak time, the more fine tuning that it becomes. So, as having won the championship last year, and as you said, going so close the year before, it wouldn't seem natural to think, oh, I've got a list of all these problems. It can't have been that bad if it was going that well. So no, I think we've got a good package with the team. I think, you know, obviously the bike's working well in the championship. I certainly feel very comfortable with the team. I've got a really good crew, or I think is a really good crew. And I could comfortably say I'm the most comfortable I've been in racing, because I know, and that's because of the team, the environment the team have put. I don't need to explain to them how important it is to go testing, and I don't need to say we really need to make the bike better. And we're all want success equally. So where in the past often I've had situations where the teams kind of like put a lot of emphasis on me as the rider to make the difference. And sure, I would like to be able to do that. I would love to be that superhuman that could hop on any bike and just, I'm the magical portion that just brings the bike up to the leading position. But that's not reality. Reality is it's everybody in the team needs to work together, and it needs to be, I'm saying things that people have heard for years, but it's that team environment, and it's everybody pulling their weight equally that makes it successful. So I feel like I've got that, whereas in the past I felt like I was sometimes pushing for stuff that people didn't think was I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say I'll just pick something out of the air, but let's say that the brakes were an area that I wasn't pleased with, and I was saying, oh look, this is where we need to make a change. I feel like I'm losing ground on the brakes. Can maybe we look into another brake supplier, or can we go testing to get other brakes? If the people in the team don't believe that that's the biggest problem, you're going to find it really hard to get them to work with you and make a change. Where at PBM, I feel like I'm not so much against that kind of resistance. It feels like I'm at my most comfortable, because if I was to bring up a problem, then the guys just believe that that's the problem. And they may go to the computer and check some statistics of how the bikes work, and to confirm that it's not, there's not other elements, but at least they've taken the information I'm given on board, and they're moving to try and create a solution to that problem. And that just gives me, peace of mind, and it gives me, confidence and stuff in the people that I'm working with. And then ultimately, with my riding, my feedback, and the quality of the team and the mechanics, it's created success. So, whilst everything's going good, it's not normal to find reasons to complain.
Yeah. So yeah, like it's that trust and confidence. It's a team that knows how to win. You want to win. That's why they go racing. It's why you go racing. So that's it's great that you've got that consistency. It's probably not great for everyone else on the field this year, but I mean, you talked about obviously at the top, and there's not huge changes to make. I mean, has there been many changes to the bike in the two seasons you've been on it?
Yeah, because there's outside elements and factors that change. So a big area of conversation last year was the change of the tyre configuration. It's still the Pirelli tyres. It's still the same compound of rubber that we've probably raced on for years, but certain elements of the shape and the size of the tyre was updated by Pirelli, and I assume with the best interests at heart, whether it's more endurance from the tyre, so it keeps consistent lap times, or whether it's to make the tyre perform to a higher standard, so we reach a lap record pace at every circuit. I'm sure the people at Pirelli love to, after a race weekend, to put in their press release that they've set another new lap record in every circuit. So everybody is always striving to achieve their best or improve their personal best. But as a result of that, that's an outside element that we've all had to then adjust to suit. So at the end of 2019, I felt like I had, the perfect combination with bike and settings, that we could go into 2020 without making any changes. But because the tyre size changed, unfortunately for me, we had to then go and reevaluate all our settings for different tracks, and it took quite a few races for us to really find the right direction. And I felt like it kind of plagued us a bit, because we'd had so much success the year before. You kind of always revert back to what works.
Yeah.
But when you change one element, if you think about it like a mathematical equation, you've only got to change one element in that equation to get a different answer at the end. So we were kind of reverse engineering. We had what we thought was going to be the answer, but we couldn't understand why it wasn't working in the same way it had the year before. So we had to accept that an outside element had changed. And I don't know of any big changes for this coming season, but things do change. Also, we change exhaust manufacturers from 19 to 20. That possibly made the engine perform better. Then we also got a change of, I think, camshaft spec was changed, obviously with performance in mind. Exactly how many horsepower that change was, I don't know. But, there's lots of maybe what you call small changes that, again, for the best interest of performance. But you got to also remember that may have a carryover effect. I remember, when I very first started racing, I had a 125 in the GP class, and every time we made more horsepower, or we got a new part for the bike to make more horsepower, then the handling went bad. And as a first time in racing, I couldn't understand. I was like, just when I had the handling really working really well, we'd get an airbox or a cylinder head upgrade, and as I could afford things with, it was a family funded operation. So as the rounds went on, we got more parts as we could afford it, and every time we made the bike perform better power wise, it went the other way with handling. And it was a really good lesson very early on that sometimes you're always in search of more horsepower, but there's always an adverse effect when you do get it.
Speaking of changes, though, the big change probably for not from a bike point of view is to the championship itself, the qualifying structure, the showdown, how many people go through to that, and of course the amount of races in a weekend. I mean, does that bother you at all, or you were just like, that's the way it is and I'll just crack on?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, what's one person you're just going to stand there and jump around and shout how you don't like some new rule change? I think the biggest change, if my memory's right, I think it was 2010 when they changed, or maybe it was later, when they changed to the showdown design. Yeah. That was quite a big change, but ultimately my duty and my job is to go and try and win races, and if I win often enough, I'll win the championship, and that's the desired goal. So whilst the way that the rules are set out may change, really what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to get out of what I'm doing remains the same. Each weekend I've got a target to try and win the races. And if I can't win the race, I have to try and evaluate whether second's, a good, or a third, or even a fifth, or whatever. I have to make my mind up on that day whether, the calculation is push harder and maybe fall, or consolidate and take the position. And ultimately, all those decisions are based on whether I can win the championship, or how does this affect my points in the championship. So. I really think that the best way for me to think about it is that my goal is to try and win races and win the championship, and regardless of the structure of the way the points are gathered, or it's irrelevant. You know, the way I'm going to do things is going to maintain the same.
I was thinking the way you go about your season, and you always seem to finish really strong. Your last 2 seasons at Brands Hatch, and I think 2015 as well, you did the triple there. Is that, you know, a case of you just building that momentum through the year, or you know, and in intense pressure? You know, I've been at the last 2 finals, I've been at plenty of finals, and I'm nervous, and you've gone out and won every race, obviously because you had to. Is that because you work really well under pressure, you just love Brands Hatch GP as a track, or the momentum and confidence you've carried through the year just means that, you know, you're a professional racer, that's what you're there to do? It's just looking at the stats before we talked, thinking, wow, how can, you know, God, under that pressure, just absolutely smash it at the last round?
Yeah, I think it's the combination of all those things that you've just mentioned. I personally don't want to only perform under pressure, but history would suggest that I seem to do. Like, it's like when things are building up against me, then that's when I kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a subconscious thing. I can't bring it to, you know, my conscious mind to do it differently. But when that pressure builds up, and I just seem to then find the best of within myself. But I think also, maybe going a bit deeper, I think as a person, I'm quite calculated. I think, you know, in the beginning of my career in BSB, when I kind of got labelled as this sort of like brain out, reckless rider, which is the way I was being kind of viewed and portrayed, let's say, that kind of cut quite deep, because I knew personally that wasn't an accurate description of how I go about things. And I think that I kind of, I feel like and I think that's probably why I've gone well to a degree at the Isle of Man, is because I feel like I don't take unnecessary risks. At the start of the season, when I don't feel, let's say whether it's the start of the lap or the start of the race or the start of the season, anytime when I'm not confident that I know everything's going to go well or right, I kind of take a reserved approach and try and find the safest and most calculated way of dealing and improving things. And then as the race goes on, or as the season goes on and the championship, I refine all the weak links and get the bike working better and improve my skills or whatever. It'll get more in tune with how the tyres work. And as the season gets on, I seem to, filter out all the noise and get right down to the most important elements and fine tune myself to finding the peak of all of those combinations. And then my results start to come stronger, not because maybe I couldn't do it at the start, but because I was being more calculated at the start, whereas at the end, I'm able to take a bigger risk and not make that fall or make that pass stick. Whereas if had I just tried it immediately early in the season or at the start of the race, it may have gone wrong. So I think that's got to be, that's my analysis of how I feel it is in my head. I mean, maybe, if you asked another person, they might have a different perspective, but that's how I feel that it goes. At least that's how it feels emotionally to me as the weeks go on, as the rounds and the year goes on. I feel like working with the team, I can refine the bike, and it's when where it comes kind of, because I overanalyze some things, because when I get to the end of the year and I see how well we're going and how good the lap time is, I then start to go, well, where were we at round 2 or 3 or 4? You know, and I try to start then going back and work out where the performance was lacking earlier in the year. And sometimes there isn't any evidence to say that the bike was different, or that I was doing, or that we were operating as a team differently. It was just that I was riding more conservative at the start, and now at the end of the year, where I've become so much more in tuned and ingrained with the bike, and it's kind of, we're operating as one, you know, rather than me kind of just hanging on for death, for grim death. You know, it's just at the end of the year, I feel like I've become as like one unit with the bike, and I can take it to a level which is, you know, of a higher standard every lap, and get more out of it. And that's as a result of the progress of the year. And so then if you go back to this and look at this, the data that's from the bike earlier in the year, it actually isn't that much different sometimes.
Yeah, all psychological. Because I was looking, looking through the history and thinking, well, you've got 17 wins at Brands Hatch GP. So I'm thinking, does Josh just go to the last round going, yeah, me and Brands Hatch, you know, we click? Or are there any other circuits on the calendar where you have that, I don't know, extra confidence, or you're really excited about going to?
Yeah, I'll let you in on something. Like some races, I can't remember exactly where it is, but I definitely remember the moments where I've actually said to myself during the race, if this race, you know, say, and it's normally when the performance is low. So say I'm in 8th position and I'm struggling and it just doesn't seem to click. And I actually say to myself, if this was the last race of the year and all I had to do was beat that 7th place guy to win the championship, could you do it? You know, I mean, I asked myself that question, you know, like, because it's not the last race of the year, and it's a mid-year race, and it's not, the championship doesn't depend purely on that race. I then start to analyse myself, and I think, is there something I could do better? Is my mental position thinking that this race isn't important enough to push more? So then I asked myself, if this was that race, could you do better? And sometimes the answer is no. I mean, I'm in fact, every time the answer's been no. I've ridden and I've actually thought to myself, imagine this race is the championship decider, and all I've got to do is get from 8th to 7th, and that'll decide the championship. And sometimes I haven't been able to do it. You know, I've tried and tried, and you know, I've kind of tried to reach that and find a way to unleash that potential that I know I have. Sometimes it just isn't there, you know, and that's when I have to sort of think, well, there's something not right with the bike. We're missing something, or, you know, it might not even be so critical to say that we haven't, you know, found the bike to be in the right position, but maybe just, you know, with that race condition, with it being, you know, inclement weather, or, you know, there's an outside element that's moved our potential away from winning, and you just have to go, look, on today's conditions, it's unrealistic to think you can be fastest every time. But to be back to your initial question, there's, you know, like Alton Park used to be a track I didn't really enjoy going to, but since I've been on the Ducati, I've really looked forward to Alton for some reason. I don't know if it's the way the bike works, or, you know, it must be. I mean, it suggests in itself that the bike must work particularly well on that circuit for me to have said, that made that statement. So, but then, you know, from when I rode a Honda, through Yamaha, Suzuki, you know, all the bikes, and now with the Ducati, I look forward to Thruxton. You know, it's not a track that kind of probably comes up on everybody's list as their favourite track to go to, but for some reason, I just really enjoy going there. The track's, for me, is exciting, even to the point where it should be the negative, but I kind of enjoy the challenge of making the bike work over the race distance, even when it doesn't work in my favour. You know, there's been a few times when I've kind of been cursing because of how damaging it is to the performance of the tyre during the race. But having said that, I still enjoyed that challenge. You know, the challenge was there, and it's kind of more like I refer to it like a chess game. You kind of, throughout the race, you kind of, it's unraveling a story, where there's other tracks you go to and other rounds you go to, and it's almost like, you know, you the result of the race before it even begins. You know, you can almost tell by qualifying, you know, order who's going to do well and who's not going to be a rival this weekend. Where Thruxton sort of, you know, someone who was like the 8th or 9th on the grid in qualifying could then come to challenge in, or almost definitely be a podium contender. So there's so many little kind of personal enjoyments that I get from Thruxton that makes that track a particular favourite of mine. But definitely, I mean, for sure, with all the success I've had at Brands, suggests that I like that track, and I do look forward to it. It's quite a technical track. I think I used to have this theory that because the surface was old, maybe the grip is a little bit more difficult to find, and there's a few corners that are kind of technical with like a blind crest and things like that. I was trying to find reasons for why Brands would stick out for me as a good circuit, and why I look forward to going there. But in recent years, they've done surface upgrades in it, and so you can't say that it's an old surface, and that's a determining factor, because it isn't that anymore, you know. So I don't know, it just Thruxton sticks out, you know. And in another way, people always assume Cadwell's my favourite track. I don't know why, just because of the jump and all the you know, the hype around you know, some of the photos and videos that are going around of me at Cadwell. That just sort of resonates with people, and they just make my mind up for me that must be my favourite track.
You look like you enjoy it.
And they're often quite shocked when I say, no, I don't really, you know, love the track. I love the jump, but I don't love the whole track as a circuit to go to every time. But as a general rule, all the tracks are equally important. So, you know, that it's the same number of points available for a win, regardless of which track you go to. So, as a person that kind of overanalyzes things, I kind of try not to get into a mindset where, oh, I don't like this track and I'm not looking forward to going there. I want to approach and appreciate, you know, mentally prepare for every track, as in, this is 25 points for a win, and I've got to try and go for them, all of them.
Okay. A couple of fantasy questions for you now. So if Stuart Higgs could take the BSB Championship to any racetrack in the world outside of the ones we go to, where would you like him to do it around?
Well, Eastern Creek would be a good option. I remember for years when I was racing in the Australian Superbike Championship, it was one of my favourite tracks. And it's the closest one to my house. It's like about 35, 40 minutes, give or take the traffic conditions, about 40 minutes drive from my house. So that it's completely unrealistic. It would never come onto the calendar. But, you know, if you could wave a magic wand, it would be great. You know, of course, it's fantastic how many, as an Australian rider in the British Championship, I feel really grateful for how much support I get from the British crowd. But it would be nice, just again, a pipe dream, just to be able to race one day in front of, you know, the home crowd. In fact, it's a great shame that that people in Australia don't know much about my success, because unfortunately, Australian motorcycle press is quite a low standard, from my opinion. So they don't cover the British Championship as good as I think they should, considering how high a standard of quality of racing there is.
Yeah.
They don't really understand the spec of the motorbikes we race on. They don't understand how good the racing is. They don't understand the the historic nature of the circuits and how passionate the crowds are, and how you can still get, you know, probably 25,000 people at Knock Hill on a rainy day. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's just a great shame that Australian people and don't recognise and haven't had an opportunity, at least, to recognise how good a quality the British Championship is. So if there was sort of like, like I said, that magic wand, if we could bring and showcase how good the British Championship is just for one day in Australia, then it would be unreal. You know, it's kind of like one of those niggling things to me that people, how many questions I get often about my racing and how little people know in Australia about the British Championship.
Okay, maybe that's a retirement plan then, become an editor and put the focus on it. Just thinking about Eastern Creek, I rode it in 2004 on an R1 launch, and that first corner, man, that's so fast. It's one of those, every time I went through it, it was like, I need to be a lot faster, you know, just every time coming up to it, that long straight. What a track.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think it matters what level you get to as a rider. I think that first corner you're talking about, it still has that same effect every time. Whether you're leading a race at the Australian Championship level, or as you said, as a journalist, or whatever position you hold, it still holds that same effect at any speed.
That's good to know. Because I always like, damn it, I could have been better. And sort of, again, another bit of a sort of fantasy question, really. The championship's 25 years old this year. If you could go back in time and ride for any team on any bike, any season in the championship history, which one would you go to, on what bike, and why?
Oh, I wish you'd given me some time on that question. I think I would like to race the year that Troy Bayliss came in and won the championship.
1998.
Troy's, yeah, okay, so it was 98. You've answered that for me. Troy's been kind of like, I haven't followed him like a hero, but as an example, he's kind of been that Australian hero, setting the path for what's possible for other racers from Australia to try and follow. And it's quite inspirational how he got his ride in World Championship. You know, he was the riding for Ducati in the UK, and then Foggy got injured, and that was the moment, the stepping stone opportunity for him to step up into the factory ride, and, you know, he became multiple world champion. So, you know, that story on its own is sort of kind of inspirational. It gives people hope, you know, even if you haven't kind of achieved the success in the way that maybe you'd planned out in your head. Stories like that kind of keep the flame lit to think, well, there's always a chance that something might pop up, and it might be at someone else's misfortune, but, you know, you kind of keep your head down and keep trying, because that could happen. And because he has so much success, I'd love to yardstick against him. You know what I mean? I'd like to be at my best on my best day, on the same bike as him on his best day. And obviously, with so much years of racing in British Superbike Championship, the experience I've got best is on British tracks. So, you know, it makes sense if there was ever a chance that I could kind of battle with him, it would be under those circumstances. So that would be, I think, quite an ideal scenario.
If you could ever get the chance to watch that season, it was really weird because he didn't know all the traditional lines, and he was making passes on people that no one did because he had no knowledge of the tracks. He just made them work, and he just sort of, it was a great season, like you're saying. This, you know, really, set him on the global stardom. You go into the 2021 season as favourite, number one rider, same team, same bike, but who do you see as being your biggest rival?
I think Christian's got to be up there as the main rival because, you know, obviously we're on the same equipment, same bike. You know, Christian's going to be racing for his second year. So, you know, under any circumstances, it's always, you seem to find better performance in your second year. So I think, he's going to be potentially the main rival. It's kind of fairly obvious, you know, to say Jason, you know, as he got second in the championship last year, it's easy to just look at the, you know, the results table and go, oh, who was the next place guy? But I even said Jason at the start of last year when, you know, the year before showed really good speed at different tracks and then kind of had a lot of bad luck spread through the season. So I knew if he could kind of, you know, get a bit more kind of, let's say, luck on his side, then I knew that his potential was certainly going to be high. I think as Taz kind of, I mean, he's been in Superbike for a few years now. I keep thinking of him as sort of like the young guy that's sort of just sort of merging in, but he has actually been in the Superbikes for a few seasons now. But I think if he can kind of get maybe a bit more consistency, because certainly, you know, if you selected just a couple of races to gauge his performance, then it's been superb. So I think, if he can kind of gain a bit more consistency, then he'd certainly become a bigger title threat. I could then go on and speak about every rider on the grid, Nelly, and recognise where their strengths are and maybe where they could then become a title threat. But you know, it would be too long-winded. But I think that's sort of like the kind of least depth version of who I think the challenge is going to come from.
Perfect. Josh, thank you very much for your time. Good luck in the new season. Congratulations again on the 2020 season, and we look forward to seeing you on the grid for the first round.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to getting back on the bike, and you know, it would be great to be back in front of the fans again. You know, like if there's one thing that I could do whilst in racing in British Superbikes is be a part of the biggest number of fans to enter Brands Hatch final round in history. You know, that would be a huge, you know, achievement in my career. You know, I mentioned how great it would be if Australia knew more about the British Championship and how good it is. But you know, if obviously that's not very an achievable goal. But you know, if the crowds are allowed back into racing and you know, all this time away from the track has given them more desire to come back in bigger numbers and greater force, and then hopefully that's the silver lining of this virus and lockdown circumstances. And you know, let's hope that the championship comes so well followed that we do create record attendance at the final round. And you know, to be a part of that would be unreal. You know, it's already great riding into you know, Paddock Hill Bend or even Clearways out from sort of like the Woodland area into Clearways is great when it's full of people. So you know, if we'd achieve somehow the record number of attendance, then if I was part of that, would be unreal. So you know, at least you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing the crowds come back this year, I hope.
Perfect. We've been enjoying your random acts of kindness as well. You know, you've been doing that in the off season. So it was teased on Instagram yesterday. What was?
Yeah, that's right. It was such a, you know, you sometimes feel kind of, especially for me, being in Australia, I'm kind of isolated from the lockdowns that the UK has been going through. So I kind of feel a little bit spoiled with my time, and especially that, you know, I'm not suffering even just the fact that it's not cold and rainy here. So, you know, you often spend time thinking, you know, what could I do that's going to make any difference? You know, I can't change the pandemic, I can't change the weather, but, you know, you think, well, actually I can. You know, it's not for everybody, but maybe for a couple of people, I can make a difference. And you know, it was such so well received. It was even, you know, far out exceeded what I expected to see from that idea. And as a result, we thought, well, you know, this is something that we can do again. You know, we're working with a few, you know, my personal sponsors and people like that. Got material that they can sometimes give away to the crowd, and I think that the sponsors have actually enjoyed that. It's not always just like, hey, is there something more I can have, or you know, can I get more of these please and more of those. It's actually, you know, asking for something to then give away to somebody else has been kind of like a you know, it's been well received by people. So so yeah, we'll try and do it again.
No, good on you. It's again, it has been a long winter for the UK and for us people. So we're sort of seeing our way out of it now. So certainly looking forward to. That's why we're recording these episodes. You know, trying to get excited about, you know, being at racetracks again, seeing the action, and yeah, I think your prediction about biggest crowd at Brands Hatch, you know, I think that's possible this year. We all want to get out.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, again, I feel you know, distance from exactly what everyone in the UK has been going through, but I think the most important thing now is to have a target. You know, something that we can look forward to. You know, that's what kind of keeps me going through the off season. You know, when you know, you're feeling a bit tired or a bit run down, you don't want to do that, you know, that bike ride, or you know, you kind of want to take the street that takes you home a bit quicker. You kind of you carry on a bit further on because you've got that target of the opening round, and you kind of want to do a bit more than maybe your competition's doing. So I think that the key is to have that target. So let's hope that now you know, the target's clear in front and that things are getting better going forward.
Yeah,
let's focus on that.
Definitely. Brilliant, Josh. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate you giving up your time, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Not a problem. I'll see you again soon.